We begin the narrative in an old town in England in the year 1996, where we are introduced to two childhood friends, Claire and Danny. Like many children their age, they often play together and occasionally get into mischief. However, one day, this innocent fun takes a dark turn. Claire comes up with a plan to steal something from a local store. To distract the shopkeeper, she sends Danny inside, pretending he is lost. Although Danny is nervous, Claire encourages him to be brave. While Danny engages with the store owner, Claire quickly enters, grabs a few items, and leaves unnoticed. However, upon returning to fetch Danny, the shopkeeper calmly states that his father has come to pick him up. At that moment, Claire realizes something is terribly wrong, as she knows that the man who entered the store is not Danny's father. In fact, she has just witnessed something horrifying. It is then revealed that Danny never came back. Soon, it becomes evident that Danny has been kidnapped. Although the kidnapper was eventually captured and convicted, no one ever discovered what really happened to Danny or where his body is, resulting in an unsolved criminal case. The scene shifts to 25 years later, when Claire, now an adult, returns to her hometown. Even though many years have passed, the memory of Danny's disappearance continues to haunt her. During her visit, she encounters Bill, Danny's father, in a small restaurant. Bill appears clearly distraught. He is a broken man, emotionally distant, and still mourning the loss of his son. Claire, now an influencer, listens intently as Bill shares his belief that Danny might still be alive. Bill asks Claire to talk about Danny's case on her podcast, hoping that this will bring attention or help uncover new leads. Claire, however, explains that her podcast is small and won't reach a wide enough audience to make a difference. Despite this, Bill is unwilling to give up, declaring that he is ready to try anything, even if it seems unlikely. Claire agrees to help, not because she believes they will find Danny, but because she carries a deep guilt over what happened, as it was her idea that led Danny to the store. Bill believes that his deceased and missing son may be buried in the vast vale known as the Moors, a sprawling wilderness filled with tall grass and uneven terrain. He received information that led him to this location, although the origin of this knowledge is still unclear. The next day, Bill introduces Claire to Liz, a local guardian who knows the area well. Together, they venture into the remote countryside. Claire feels uneasy. The moors are cold, empty, and strangely silent. Throughout the film, interviews with townspeople are presented. A retired detective named Thornley, who worked on the original case, recalls that at the time, children were disappearing one after another without a trace. The community was so fearful that they avoided sending their children to school, all worried about a predator lurking in plain sight. Returning home, Bill shows Claire a hand-drawn map, containing several marked points indicating the areas where he has already searched for Danny's remains, including new places he still wishes to explore. A specific location stands out, and Claire, intrigued, decides to meet with Detective Thornley in person, hoping he can shed light on Bill's search. During their conversation, Thornley expresses confusion, informing Claire that the area where Bill is searching had already been thoroughly investigated at the time of Danny's disappearance, and nothing was found. Thus, he questions why Bill is focusing again on that same area. Thornley presents overlay maps, revealing that the vale is significantly larger than it appears, and Bill was only exploring a small section of it. Claire returns home still perplexed, and as she spots a man named Alex, who visits Bill with a pendulum, she observes their interaction as Alex swings the pendulum over the map, which slowly moves until it stops at a specific location. Bill immediately marks that point. When Claire asks Bill about Alex, he clarifies that he is a friend who is helping out. Claire does not insist on getting more information, but senses that something unusual is going on, causing unease in her mind. The next day, Bill, Claire, and Liz set off again for the moors, and Claire brings a camera to document the situation. As they delve deeper in, the atmosphere grows increasingly unsettling. Claire notices two sheep staring at her motionless, a behavior that unsettles her. After spending a long time searching the moors, Claire feels an intuition that leads her to a spot where she finds a child's shoe. Bill and Liz catch up with her as she searches, and Bill quickly puts the shoe in a plastic bag to preserve it. However, on the way back, Claire begins to panic. The tension, the isolation, and the memories of her childhood become overwhelming, and she expresses the desire to leave immediately. Thankfully, they manage to return to the road safely. Later, Bill is at the police station trying to reopen Danny's case. He presents the shoe in hopes that it will be considered new evidence, but the officer informs him that it is not enough due to the absence of DNA, recent findings, and reasons to reopen the investigation, resulting in despair for Bill. We then see archival interview footage from years ago, where townspeople recall the capture of the kidnapper. Although the community felt relieved, the sense of fear and confusion lingered, questioning what happened to the children and why no bodies were recovered. The identity of the kidnapper was never revealed, and although he was sentenced to 25 years in prison, some doubted the effectiveness of the investigation, leading to speculation about the lack of a death penalty. Subsequently, Claire returns to the moors with Bill and Liz, and during the exploration, Bill and Liz suddenly disappear. Claire hears a faint sound and returns to the alley behind the store where Danny disappeared years ago. The scene remains unchanged since 1996. She spots a child who looks like Danny, who is alone. Suddenly, a dark figure approaches her. Claire realizes that this individual must be the kidnapper. In a state of terror and tears, she rushes towards the boy with the intention of saving him, but then wakes up, revealing that it was all a nightmare. After a few days without police support, Bill decides to return to the moors, determined to continue the search. Before leaving, he meets with Alex again, hoping that he can use his skills to identify the next search location. Alex informs him that he has done all he can. From Claire's perspective, the situation begins to seem like a farce, considering that Alex might just be faking help to benefit from Bill. However, Claire is surprised to find out that Alex is not charging anything for his assistance. There are no financial motives behind his actions. During a tense conversation between Bill and Alex, a new truth emerges. Alex's daughter, Elena, has even stronger psychic abilities than he does. However, using these abilities can severely debilitate her, which led Alex to keep her away from this situation. Nevertheless, Bill has already circumvented this issue and contacted Elena without Alex's knowledge, who agreed to help. Alex is upset about this, but Elena stands firm in her decision to assist. Soon, Elena arrives carrying her pendulum. Initially, nothing happens, but when she touches Danny's old shoe, the pendulum begins to spin on its own and stops at a specific location on the map, which Bill immediately marks. However, the entire process exhausts Elena, who, appearing pale and tired, is instructed by her father to start counting numbers out loud, a technique that keeps her grounded in her own mind, preventing her from getting lost in spiritual dimensions. It is evident that these powers come at a cost. Elena had warned about this before. When she uses her psychic abilities, her mind connects to other challenging spheres to escape, posing a risk if she remains there for too long. This concern is why Alex never wanted her involved. He tells her not to return to the moors, but Elena insists that helping Bill is the right decision. The next day, Bill, Claire, Elena, Alex, and Liz set off once more. During the journey, Elena mentions that she can feel within her that the moors do not want their presence. As they approach the marked location, Elena hears a voice, that of a scared little girl crying out. No one else hears it. Elena tries to calm the voice, asking who she is. The girl responds that she remembers nothing except darkness. Moved, Elena shows emotion, but moments after the manifestation, the voice fades into silence. Suddenly, Elena begins to run, and the others follow her until she falls into a hidden hole. Alex runs towards her. Elena, unconscious, remains trapped in that other world. Alex encourages her to count numbers, bringing her back to reality, and she slowly regains consciousness. Simultaneously, Bill feels he should dig near the hole, believing something is buried there. As he digs, the earth wall collapses, revealing a skeleton covered by dirt. The revelation shocks everyone. Although it is not Danny, it is another missing child, a tragic confirmation that the moors hold more than one secret. Shortly after, the police return to the site, reopening old cold missing person cases and launching a formal investigation into the bodies hidden beneath that cursed earth. 4 weeks have passed since the discovery of the girl's body on the hill, but Claire still suffers from nightmares, haunted by the horror and guilt that plagues her. During a more intimate conversation with Elena, Claire learns that the child's body found was never reported missing, nor does it belong to that region, implying that someone had moved her body to bury her in the moors. The implications of this revelation cause discomfort. Bill finds himself increasingly exhausted, continuing the search for decades, and, despite the police's acknowledgement, still without any sign of Danny. However, he remains steadfast in his belief that Danny's body is still somewhere in the moors. His only desire is to find him, to see him one more time, and to find peace. One day, Bill and Claire go to visit Elena again, in desperation for answers. Elena reveals something personal, mentioning that a spirit named Thomas has always protected her in moments of danger and has guided her spiritual journeys, even though she cannot communicate directly with him. For this, she must allow Thomas to temporarily take control of her body. Bill expresses his desire to know if Danny is among the bodies in the moors, believing that all the children were taken to the same place. If they can discover where the others were hidden, they might also find Danny. Elena agrees to help, prepares herself, and begins the ritual to connect with Thomas. Soon, Thomas manifests through Elena, presenting a calm and heavy tone. When Alex inquires about the missing children, Thomas reveals that they are silent, trapped in the darkness. Bill asks the question that has tormented him for years, asking if Danny is among them. Before Thomas can clearly respond, something unusual occurs. The map on the table becomes wet, as if it had been drenched by an invisible force. The pendulum spins wildly before stabilizing at a single point. That is where they must go. Without hesitation, Bill decides to leave immediately, despite Alex warning him about the impracticality of his decision. Claire, in turn, voices her desire to join the expedition, declaring that Danny needs them. Thus, the group prepares for the journey, with Bill, Claire, Elena, Alex, and Liz, and as they move away, they enter the moors even further than they have ever been, aware that they will need to spend the night there. Along the way, they cross enormous ancient stones, each adorned with strange inscriptions, signs that rituals were carried out there long before anyone was born. Soon, a torrential rain begins to fall, forcing the group to set up tents and seek shelter. While they wait, Elena warns the group that Thomas does not want their presence in that place, making it clear that there is a dark force in the moors that wants them to leave. Tensions rise, and in a misunderstanding, Bill and Alex clash, causing Bill to leave the tent in search of relief. Liz follows him in an attempt to calm him down, but as they move away, Bill spots a figure moving in the distance. He runs after it into the night, but ends up getting stuck in a muddy swamp. Liz rescues him, and as they regain their balance, they realize they have strayed considerably from the camp. Back in the tent, Alex steps away briefly, leaving Claire alone with Elena. During the wait, Elena asks Claire a personal question, inquiring how she copes with Bill's aggressive behavior. Claire hesitates, recounting that Bill has not always been this way. On the day Danny disappeared, he was in a state, screaming uncontrollably at the police, neighbors, and everyone around him, creating fear in Claire. However, upon seeing her, he chose to embrace her and ask if she was okay, which impacted Claire and made her realize that Danny's disappearance was not her fault. Bill never blamed her. He was just hopeless about having his son back. Before they can deepen the conversation, Alex comes back into the tent, but his presence causes discomfort. His behavior is unusual, and his expression empty. Suddenly, Elena lets out a scream, stating that Thomas is gone and that a door has opened. Her voice echoes in despair, and upon hearing, Bill and Liz rush back to the tent, where they find Elena in a completely different state, possessed. Elena's eyes are vacant, and her voice changes as her body contorts violently. Unable to find herself, she cries out for help to Alex, who, paralyzed, watches. Blood begins to pour from Elena's eyes. The force controlling her is not Thomas, but something much more violent and ancient. The others watch in terror as Elena struggles against the entity that dominates her. As she writhes on the ground, Liz grabs the phone to call for help. However, instead of reaching emergency services, a strange voice answers, calmly stating that no one can help her at that moment. Everyone freezes in fear upon hearing Elena scream as her body writhes in pain, revealing that something inside her is tearing her apart. Supernatural voices echo, overlapping in incomprehensible whispers. Then, Bill hears Danny's voice calling for him, leading the group to run out of the tent. Moments later, Elena collapses. Suddenly, Alex appears at the edges of the camp, questioning what happened to Elena, but the group watches him in terror, as Alex was already present with them. Then the truth about what happened is revealed. The being that presented itself was not Alex, but something malevolent. Before they can act, strange creatures resembling goats emerge, lacking eyes and exuding a supernatural aura. The creatures surround the group, forming a silent circle that induces paralysis. At dawn, a rescue team arrives and guides the group back to safety. As they leave the moors, Liz notices an unusual phenomenon. The goat-like creatures from the previous night are now petrified, turned to stone. Later, in the hospital, Elena receives treatment, but remains deeply shaken. Alex, her father, stays by her side, devastated. Later, when Claire returns home, she receives a call from Detective Thornley, warning her never to return to the moors, revealing that a terrible event occurred in that place and that the kidnapper has vanished from prison. Claire is horrified by this news. Bill, on the other hand, becomes unreachable and obsessive, unstable and more determined than ever. Claire tries to stop him, but her attempts are dismissed. The following day, she decides to leave him and return home. Finally, she records an episode for her podcast, narrating the entire story, everything she witnessed and survived. Next, in the final moments, images from Claire's camera captured during the last night in the moors reveal the horrific truth. That night, while the others slept, Bill dragged Claire back to the ritual site, guided by a voice that only he could hear. The voice promised that if he sacrificed Claire, his son would be returned to him, emphasizing that she must disappear that night, not Danny. Claire pleads for him to stop, tears streaming down her face, begging that her son is gone and that this won't bring him back. However, Bill refuses to listen, convinced this is the only solution. The footage reveals Bill throwing Claire into the swamp, the same cursed place where countless children were buried. As she sinks, spectral hands emerge, pulling her down, while her screams are silenced by the earth. In the final image, a boy is seen emerging from the darkness towards Bill. The figure is Danny, or at least he appears to be.